What's up everybody? My name is Mike Perea, and in this video I'm showing you guys how to do a time lapse of the Milky Way just like this. Now obviously the first thing you need is a tripod. Now it doesn't have to be a giant one like this, but a sturdy tripod is something you're definitely gonna need. Also, if you've never shot the Milky Way before and want to know how to do it, so I'm going to link up to this video right here, shows you guys basic Milky Way photography. Now one of the time lapses I did in that video, I'm going to go over the settings. I'm going to use that as an example. I'm going to show you guys how I shot it, how I processed it, and the final result. Now unless you have the D850 like I have, or maybe the Canon 5D Mark IV, you're going to have to buy one of these. This is an intervalometer. You plug it into the side of the camera, and you got a bunch of different settings here. Each camera has a different intervalometer available for you. You have to go on Amazon and just kind of search for your camera. But there's an intervalometer for just about every camera that takes a micro USB. And you can set up all your intervals on here, set up how many shots. So that's what I did, 150 shots, 30-second interval. And yeah, just set it up like that. It's pretty simple, and you can set it and let it go. My D850 now has the intervalometer built in, just like the Canon 5D Mark IV I believe has the same thing. So I was able to do it without one of these, but if you don't have one of those two cameras, you're probably going to need one of these. So I took about 150 shots for these time lapses, and the reason why I did that was because each second is 24 frames. Okay, that's what, when you see a movie, whether it's in the movie theaters, on TV, in the United States anyway, it's shot at 24 frames per second. So each individual shot, 24 shots make up 1 second. So 150 shots is going to give you about a 5 to 6 second time lapse, which sounds like maybe it's not a lot. For a time lapse, that's perfect. 5 to 6 seconds, maybe a 10-second for like a Holy Grail, which is like a day to night time lapse. But usually I try to keep it right around 5 or 6 seconds. So I shot 150 shots, and my settings were, I shot it at ISO 2500, 15-second shutter speed at f2.8. I was shooting on a full frame camera. So next let's talk about the interval. I shot every 30 seconds, so that way there was a 15-second gap in between each shot. So I'd shoot it, have a 15-second shutter speed, it would stop, and then 15 seconds later another shot would start. So it took me about an hour and a half was the entire duration of me shooting this Milky Way time lapse to get my 150 shots. I was taking, a shot every 30 seconds. That's 2 per minute. So once I did that, had it all set to go, I'm able to look at each shot after it's done. It's able to render out in my camera. I can see it on the back of the viewfinder, make sure everything looked good on it. Now the settings are never going to change when you're doing a Milky Way time lapse because obviously it's nighttime. The light's not changing, so you don't have to worry about changing any settings during the shot. So I was able to set it up. You can leave it there for the hour and a half, let it run. It'll stop on its own and you're good to go. So now let's head to the computer. I'm going to show you guys how I process it. I'm going to show you guys a real easy way to do it, and then I'm going to show you guys real quickly some software that I use for it. It's a bit expensive if you use it the way that I use it, but let's go on the computer and I'll show you what we got going on. All right, so we're jumping on the computer here. I'm going to show you guys kind of how to organize the photos in a folder, and then how to import them to Lightroom just to do a quick edit. And then we're going to jump over to Premiere Pro, which is the post-processing software that I use because it's part of the Adobe suite. I already have Lightroom and Photoshop. There's others that are going to work this way too. I'm sure After Effects or Final Cut Pro, I'm sure it'll work too. So anyway, so what we're going to do is on the computer here, you guys will see in the folder that I have, everything's in sequential order, which means it's all numbered. And if you don't have that, when you import them, you can go down here to Arrange By and go to Date Created, and that'll take care of that. And go ahead and import them. And when you import them, what you want to do is you want to take the first image. Start working on the first image. What I did here was I just messed with the white balance a little bit. I brought out the highlights just to bring out that Milky Way. A little bit of clarity, a little bit of dehaze, and a little bit of vibrance. I don't do much to these here, the time lapses. You don't want to over edit them. That's all I did with that. For detail, sharpen, it automatically does it at 40. Now I do the masking. If you hold Option or Alt down, and you can go back and forth, it shows what it does is this only applies the sharpening to the white parts, which I just want the stars and the Milky Way sharpened. I don't want anything else. So I got it up to about 76 and let it go, and it goes back. So you can see it only sharpened the stars. It doesn't sharpen any of these darker areas here. The luminance, noise reduction, I got up to, I think it's 14 here. That's all I did on the noise reduction. And then I came down here to transform and went to auto. And that's it. It's flat, I straightened it out. So now what I would do, so that's all editing I'm going to do on this. I like the color. I like how everything's going. You can see the lights of Sedona down here. Really looks nice. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit G to go back up, and it's going to, go back up to my grid view. So what I want to do here is I want to apply this same edit to all these photos. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to hold down, I can hit Command A. There you go, and now they're all selected. I come down here to the bottom right where it says Sync Settings and make sure that everything is checked, because I want all the edits to go exactly the same across every single photo. So they're all checked, and I'm going to go ahead and just hit Synchronize. And while that's working, what I'm going to do now, once that's all finished, all these are all going to be synchronized. So you have the same settings all the way throughout, same color. Come down here to the very last one, do a quick double check. All right, so there you go. You got a little bit of a little bit of clouds coming in here at the very end, which is cool. So I'm gonna hit G, go back to the grid view. All right, guys, so I'll hit Command A to make sure everything is highlighted. And then under File, I will go down to Export. It'll bring up your export dialog box. And you wanna make sure you choose a folder to set them all up in. And I'm gonna choose Sedona time-lapse JPEGs. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here and under rename to, I'm going to choose a custom name and sequence. And I'm going to name it Sedona MW. And it's going to be down here. The example is going to be Sedona MW-1. Now this is super important, guys. You want to start with number 1. Because I have this custom name and sequence, all the images are going to be in a sequence. So it's going to start off with Sedona MW-1. They're going to go to Sedona MW-2 and so on. That's super important, guys, for this time lapse you need to have done. Image format's going to be JPEG. sRGB is the color space. Quality is going to be 100. And then I won't do anything else. None of this is going to be checked. I'm not going to sharpen, not going to do anything like that. So once you're done with that, just hit export. And it's going to export into the folder you wanted. And from there, we're going to go into Adobe Premiere. All right, so now we are in Adobe Premiere Pro. All right, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna create a sequence. Now I wanna put this into a 4K clip. So what I wanna do is I wanna come over here to New, under File, New, and go under Sequence. Now, I've gone ahead and already created a custom preset for my sequence. And what it is it's the frame size is 3840 by 2160. The frame rate's going to be 23.976, which is the 24 frames a second I was telling you guys about earlier. Pixel aspect ratio is square pixels 1. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. And you can go ahead and create these by going under Settings and going through all of this. And down here where it says Save Preset, go ahead and save it under a name. But I'm going to go ahead and just do, since I already created it, so there's mine. Sequence 01 is fine, doesn't really matter the name, and hit OK. All right, guys, so once that sequence is set up, you want to go into File here, go down to Import. All right, so we go to the folder that you put all your JPEGs in, and you can see here Milky Way -1, -2, all the way down. So you want to select the very first image, go down to Options, make sure Image Sequence is checked, and just hit Import. All right, guys, once that's imported, now just grab it, drag it onto your timeline here. It's going to come up with this clip does not match the sequence settings. All that's doing is you have a 4K sequence settings, but then the image you imported in is actually bigger. So all that is just keep existing settings. It's pretty easy. And I will come down here and I will zoom in on the timeline. And as you guys can see up here, because my image is bigger than my sequence, I gotta come under Effects Controls and click on make sure that the clip is highlighted. And under Scale here, I'm gonna scale down to about 50%, I think, is gonna be perfect. I'll hit Return because this red here, it's ready to render out what I changed on it. Now that it's done rendering, I'm going to hit play, and there you go. Perfect. See the clouds coming in at the very end there? Looks awesome, and it's right at 5 seconds. See, there you go. Perfect. All right, now all we want to do is export. I'm not going to do anything else to it. I like the way it is. Now you can get fancy with it and keyframe and mimic movement side to side, stuff like that, but I'll do that in a different tutorial. What I'm doing here is, that's it, I'm done. So now we need to export it. So what I'll do is come to the very beginning of the timeline, hit I for in, and go to the very end, hit O for out, and so that way I know what to export. Under File, go down to Export, Export Media. Now up here on the export settings, what I'm going to do is, you can do match source. What I like to do is, since there's going to be no audio, this is what I normally do for my stock footage, because I sell some of these time lapses. So I have a preset on exporting too, and I'll show you what I used and how I made the preset. So H.264 is going to be the format. You can also go under QuickTime, and you can use it as export as a ProRes file, which will be an MOV file, so stock video ProRes. So I can do that. I'm going to go through here, export video. There is no audio in this, so I can keep that unchecked. The codec is going to be the Apple ProRes. You go under here. There's a bunch of stuff to choose from. This seems to be the best codec, is the Apple ProRes 422. And so there you can see my my settings there for my resolution. Frame rate's going to be the 23.976. Field order progressive. Make sure you click this box here, render at maximum depth. That'll give you the best quality at 8B. I'm not sure what exactly that is. That's already checked. And I'll come down here. That's pretty much it for all that. Use maximum render quality. Make sure that box is checked. Time interpolation is frame sampling. And then just go ahead and either hit export or go to Q, which is what I use. It'll bring up your Adobe Media encoder. So if you have Premiere Pro and After Effects, you're already going to have encoder. Click this little green button up on the top to render, and that's it, guys. That's my rendered file. That's the easiest way to do it. That's the way I like to do my Milky Way time lapses, or any time lapse that I'm not changing settings, the light's not changing. I can just simply edit that very first file, go through Lightroom, sync everything together, and use Adobe Premiere to do my exporting. So makes it really simple. It's a great time lapse. Now if I'm doing something called the Holy Grail time lapse, which is like a day to night transition or a night to day, where the light and the exposure is going to be changing a lot, I have to actually change the settings on the camera. I'll do an entire tutorial on it, but I use something called LR Timelapse. Now LR Timelapse is a software that works with Lightroom. Now, it is expensive if you want to get the Pro license. There's 3 versions. There's an introductory, or like a basic version, where you can just download it. It's free. Some of the features are available. You can export a video in 1080p, which is really nice. There's a private version which allows you to do 4K time lapses. The original version, or the trial version is what they call it, doesn't allow you 4K exporting. It'll do, I think, 1080p. I have the Pro license, which is about $250 US, I think. Now, I use that because I sell these time lapses. I put them on stock websites and I sell to clients. And if you're interested and you're serious about time lapses and wanting to sell them, I would get the Pro license. Like I said, $250. Now, if you just want to put it to YouTube, but you want 4K, the private license, I believe, is like $99. So there's a couple different options. I'm going to link down below the LR Timelapse website. You guys can look through it if it's something you guys want. I highly recommend it. I'll do an entire tutorial going through how I process it in LR Timelapse when I do my Holy Grail tutorial, which will be coming really soon, guys, so stay tuned for that. All right, guys, well, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys like this kind of stuff, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. Hit the thumbs up button if you like this video, and I'll see you guys on the next one.